Back in just 5 minutes.
Okay, so I realize I am between you and your $100 gift card. So I'll try to make this short and sweet. And I won't say it 63 ways. If I have my presentation. If I don't get my presentation, this is going to be a lot quicker. Oh, there we go. See, it started building even when it wasn't there, because it starts in the middle of my presentation. Isn't that excellent? Okay, hi. So I'm Jeff Aboud. I'm a technology evangelist here at Cisco in the group that we call the Internet of Things, or IoT. Now, I know a lot of you are in IT, a lot of you are not. So for those of you who are in IT and already understand this information, please bear with me. For those of you who are not, you're probably thinking, what in the heck is IoT? Is it, what, IOT? No, it doesn't stand for that. Internet of Things just kind of makes sure we're on the same page. Really is a highly distributed network of sensors, things that are objects, smart objects, that actually add intelligence to our world. They're capable of generating, analyzing, and communicating data. So this is essentially what is formerly the unconnected. Now we're connecting those things. So you probably heard the Internet of Everything. This is the things portion of it, but don't take that too literally. We're not talking about the device. We're talking about a network of connected devices. Because devices, interesting to some, a network of connected devices, that's where we actually start making some progress here, guys. Because each individual item generates data. Data, nobody's around, boring. Data is boring. But you start culling that data together. You start putting it together and analyzing it. That produces what we call intelligence. Now, once you have intelligence, you can use that intelligence. And when you can act upon that intelligence, that's what we call knowledge. So you turn data to intelligence, intelligence to knowledge. Now you got something we can all use. It's going to make our lives better. It's going to make your business practices a lot easier. You're going to increase your ROI. You're going to decrease your costs using the same physical assets you already have. And if you're just a person, which I think most of us, yep, we all qualify. Well, not Robert, but that's a different story for a different time. It's actually going to make our lives a lot more comfortable. So a lot of great stuff is going to come from IoT, but it doesn't come without its issues and challenges. This is the most unresponsive clicker I've ever had in my life. Now, IoT is not magic. It's not even the future. IoT is today. Because earlier this year, we actually had connected devices surpass the population of men, women, and children on this planet. I think even if you count cats and dogs and some birds, some species, rare ones, that we actually surpassed that population as well. So the idea is IoT is already here. We already have, on average, 1.5 devices per person. Now, I think looking around this conference, we probably have about 7.5 devices per person. And Lionel has 5 himself. And this is still... There we go. Okay, so it's a game changer. I already mentioned this a little bit before. The fact that it's going to actually help our business become far more efficient. Some of the things we've already talked about here on the security side, the physical security side. Your cameras, great. But what if we can add that with some analytics, and we can actually make those cameras, which give you data, very intelligent, and give you that knowledge, so that you can actually take, whether it's a security instance where you can make sure that people aren't in areas they're not supposed to be, and you can do something proactively about it. I'm still working on the sensor that'll give them a little electrical shock when they're not supposed to be, but until we get that, we can at least know they're there and communicate with them in real time. Or like the retail application here in Prism Skylabs, we talk about being able to really serve our customers more efficiently. Make sure a customer service rep is in there. Understand where to put things more efficiently. There's lots of things that we can do. So it's definitely a game changer. We can do a lot of great stuff. But, and I'm just going to build this whole thing out because I'm not going to bore you with all the details right now. But, and maybe I'll build it a lot more slowly than I thought I was going to. This is actually the piece I want to concentrate on. This is our architecture for Internet of Things, but really this is the piece that I'm really going to concentrate on, because these are the security implications, these are the security challenges that we, and this means all of we, are going to face when we start implementing IoT. Now let me just be very clear here. The implementation and embracing of IoT is not like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll do that now. It's happening. It's here. It's just like bring your own device. Now all of a sudden this is connected to the network. I own it. You don't. You don't control it. I do. You can't see anything else that's on it. Think of that to an exponent of like 100. So that's really, BYOD, we didn't really have a choice. We just had to deal with it from a security perspective. IoT, that same thing, but on steroids. So we're going to have to deal with it. So let's just try to understand what are the security challenges and how do we actually solve those. So let's take each of those layers one at a time. So first of all, I mentioned billions of devices, 10 to 15 billion devices today, depending on who you trust and believe, but at least 10 billion, which already surpasses the human population. All connected. Guess what? None of these things are touching your network. Good, right? No. Remember I said earlier, they're still generating, analyzing, and communicating that data and producing that intelligence. Well, guess where that data is going? How do they communicate it? It's going through your network. So now all of a sudden, good news. You have all these devices that aren't touching your network. Bad news. They are producing petabytes of information that is going through your network. You don't own these. You oftentimes can't even see these, and you don't control them in any way, shape, or form, yet they are distributing petabytes of data going through your network. So what are those challenges? Well, they're geographically dispersed. They can be quite literally anywhere on the planet. Heterogeneous. We've already seen all throughout this conference dozens of different types of devices. There are actually hundreds and thousands of different types of devices. That's where I get that BYOD on steroids piece. There's sometimes in secure locations, we like our server rooms, nice located. We got cameras there. We got badge access. Well, IoT devices are there too, but they can also be quite literally on the side of the highway. Something that's monitoring traffic, something that's monitoring speed. Well, now all of a sudden, not only do you not have badge access to that, but a guy with a beer in one hand and a screwdriver in the other is a possible security breach. So you have insecure locations as well as the secure ones. Varying levels of security in the devices themselves. And remember, you don't control them, so you can't fix that. And high volumes of very disparate data. Since they're very different types of devices, we're also generating lots of different types of data for different aspects and different applications. So what are our security requirements? We need physical security. We need cameras, things like that, badge access when appropriate. We need to have device-level security and anti-tampering. That guy with the screwdriver isn't going to get the best of you. We need to have end-to-end data encryption. On the off chance that the guy with the screwdriver does get to you, he can have plenty of data that's completely useless. And of course, privacy controls. This is a lot less technology-driven than it is, we got to have rules. A lot of people, we talk about, hey, all sorts of analytics you can get out of your existing cameras. Consumers especially, and consumer groups, freak out when you say that. Well, it's not nearly as bad as you think because, their privacy is being invaded by the fact that we have any of this stuff. So the fact that we have analytics on top of it just helps us. We're looking at aggregate information. A, we need to get them to understand that. And B, more importantly, we have to have rules that we can all live by. So what's the next level? Well, the distributed applications. These are the things that are actually making use. Those are the things that are taking that intelligence and now turning it into actionable knowledge. And this is great stuff. We have what Cisco refers to as fog computing. This is just like cloud computing, but lower. And it's not even really intended to be a silly term, so much as is essentially it's the same blueprint of your cloud storage area and all the cloud applications that are in it, but just closer. Cisco's actually building switches and routers that have compute process right in that switch and right in that router. So it's much closer to the endpoint. It's much closer to the edge. So you can do things that are much, much more rapid. So you have a connected car traveling 65 miles an hour, because we would never exceed the speed limit, of course. We have those things. Well, if data is going out to the cloud, being analyzed, turning around, coming back, that level of latency is unacceptable. The car will be gone by then. So we have to have things that are much closer by. So we're going to have things like the cloud layer. We're going to have all sorts of distributed services. We're going to have distributed applications that, again, it's not centralized. It's not a monolithic application like Microsoft Word or any of the Office tools we're using. It's much more similar to your cell phone today, where you have a little bit or a little piece, client-side piece on your phone or on your device, And the actual information and all the great stuff that's about it is on multiple clouds with data going all over the place. That's where you get the true value of that particular distributed application, which is goodness. However, it also has its challenges. So its challenges, first of all, again, like we talked about, resides in multiple locations, multiple clouds that are all generating tons of data going all over the place. Lack of centralized control, I just mentioned that. High volumes of disparate data. Some of these things are repeating on purpose. And then so based on this stuff, what are your security requirements? Well, certainly you want threat detection and mitigation. This is, a lot of times this is your traditional network security, your firewall, your intrusion prevention, your intrusion detection, your secure mobility pieces. Secure access. That can be everything from a secure mobility client to cameras and badge readers, depending on where these things are. Data loss prevention. I want to make sure these things aren't uploading things that I don't want going out of my organization. And then, of course, data encryption, as I mentioned before, and privacy controls. I put those together because they kind of go hand in hand here. Now, the connectivity layer. This is your traditional network. These are your switches, your routers, your storage environments. So challenges, high volumes of disparate data. Again, billions of heterogeneous devices not owned or controlled in any way, shape, or form by your environment. And that, tell your IT guys this. Make sure they're sitting first, unless you're really mean. Make sure you're standing then. So security requirements. How are we going to deal this at the network level? Physical security. Absolutely, you've got to have it. Network-wide policy enforcement. Cisco has a lot of solutions on this. I want to write one policy, and I don't care what it's touching throughout my network. I want to make sure that those policies transcend all of those components. And threat detection and mitigation, your traditional firewall, et cetera. And secure access. So the management layer. This is going to be really critical in IoT because we have all these different devices with all this different information, and we don't control it. Well, we're going to have a real problem. And I don't want a controller for every single type of 10 billion devices. So I need to have some standards. But again, these applications are geographically dispersed. Multiple clouds. Remember, I don't control them. Heterogeneous device types. And disparate data. Those are the three things we've mentioned before, but just think about what that means from a management perspective. So what are the security requirements? Again, I got to have that end-to-end data encryption. Got to have those privacy controls. And again, that's not a technology thing. Those are rules. And I've got to have secure access. If I've got one controller that's controlling even 100,000 devices and distributed applications that are distributed quite literally all over the planet, if I don't have strong secure access, I'm in a world of trouble. And all that sensitive data is going to fall in the wrong hands within a nanosecond. Data loss prevention again. And finally, the cloud applications layer. Again, this is part of today also. You've got this in your networks right now. All your analytics, your visualization, all the big data analytics, all the petabytes of information that these things are going to be producing and analyzing, distributing throughout the world. You got to have strong cloud storage. A lot of this stuff is going to go through data centers, service providers, lots of different types of networks here. So again, different networks all throughout the cloud. So what are your challenges? High volumes of disparate data. You kind of seeing a theme here? Heterogeneous device types. I know that one shocked everybody. And geographically dispersed. So, anybody want to guess at your security requirements? You're going to have physical security. You're going to have that threat detection and mitigation. These are the two biggest pieces here. I want card access and I want cameras on anything that's within my domain. And I want, in my traditional network as well as in that cloud, I want my firewall, my intrusion prevention, secure access, mobility, etc. in there. And I want secure access. I also want to encrypt that data because it's mine and I don't want you to have it. And if you somehow, some way get to it, I want to make sure it's completely useless to you. And then again, those privacy controls. So those are really what I'm really trying to look at here. So this was not meant to be a fear-mongering session. This is much more intended to be saying, listen guys, this is inherently more complex. We've never had billions of disparate devices littered all over the world before. But that's the world we live in today, and that's the world, it's just going to get bigger and bigger as we go along. So we have to understand the security ramifications of that and be able to start dealing with that today. So thank you very much. With
That's
that,
Jeff,
I bring Robert back
everyone.
on.
The Internet of Things, IoT, or EOT as he called it at the beginning.